where I see they could get 8 inches to a foot of snow on the eastern slope and maybe a couple of feet up into the mountains. First major snowstorm of the year. They even have snow forecast for the Northeast at the end of the week. So getting our first taste of winter in a couple of spots. We're supposed to cool down here. Doesn't look like we're going to get any moisture out of it. We sure could use a bunch. We could use a foot of snow, or a couple of feet of snow, actually. So here we are. The market is awaiting news from the EU. We do have durable orders to get through first. They're calling durable orders off 1%. Ex-transportation plus 0.4%. That will cause a reaction. At 10 Eastern, new home sales is called plus 300K. It's generally been 280 to 300. That number could come in a little higher as builders get stuff in the ground, foundations poured before winter sets in. So the northern states usually see a little jump in home building this time of year, and that could make the number come in higher than forecast. Okay, we left last night wanting to be buyers at 28.29 to 01. We're in that zone right now, but we failed to get through yesterday's high, and failure to take out this 8 to 12 area set up a pretty good sell, really. When you can't take out the preceding day's high in the overnight session, the market's going to come back down and drift lower looking for support. So this first little support band will be in this 24 to 28 area, followed by this breakout from 16 yesterday. So we've got pretty good support at 16 to 20. And then 24 to 28. And we've got news to get through. And first is durable orders. So minus 1% for durable orders would be plus for the financials. Plus 0.4. Ex transportation won't hurt them. Once this news is out of the way, the E-minis reaction to this news, then we're going to focus on what the EU has come up with. And right now it's 440 euro dollars. With 2 times leverage. Greek debt, 60% haircut. So that's what the market expects. Now, the problem, there's a lot of problems with this. And that is predicated, everything is really predicated on a 60% haircut for Greek debt will be enough. And it could be enough if Greece lived within their means, their tax revenues. And right now they're spending $1.50 for every dollar that they collect. And if this remains the case, then a Greek debt of 60% haircut on their debt doesn't work over time. Then, if Greece can get a 60% haircut, can get the European central banks to buy their paper, why not Irish paper, Portuguese paper, Spanish, and Italian paper? And right now, yesterday afternoon, we read that the Italian government is in danger of collapsing. Now, that used to just be status quo. The Italian government would collapse every year. And then over about the last 10 years, that has not been the case. But these problems go past Greece. And my guess is if it is as forecast right there, then we're looking at a kick the can down the road until the next crisis, which comes sometime in next year. Long-term ramifications of any of these deals is that the euro currency is headed lower. Growth in the EU is headed lower. comes for two reasons. The northern states' taxes go up to pay for the spending of the pigs. The pigs won't have as much money from the northern states to spend. Their consumption will go down, and that will bring contraction to the overall EU's economy. So it's pretty hard to see the EU not going into a recession. And that impacts earnings per share. Its earnings per share drive stock markets, and if the earnings per shares go down, the stock market valuation goes down, meaning the indexes are lower. So it's not an easy problem to resolve. So we'll get a reaction to the durable orders stuff, and then the market will go back on a hold until the EU makes its announcement. And I'd say there's probably a 50-50 chance that we don't get an announcement today. The other date that's been kicked around to resolve all the issues is November the 3rd. And yeah, G20 is expected to step up to the plate either through the IMF or direct. The United States Treasury and the Fed are already pumping money into Europe. And when they had the run on the European money market funds, there was a big outflow, I think it was $106 billion or something like that, to shore up the ECB's demands for dollars. So yeah, it's all intertwined, and they're looking for the rest of the world to help pick up that debt. Wouldn't you? Hey, I've spent all my money, and I'm a good guy. I'm Europe. I've got all this social welfare state built up over here. I've got all these bureaucrats to take care of. Pitch in. Come on, help us. At some point, those arguments will no longer fly, and currencies will be revalued. Economies will be the deck will be reshuffled, and we'll see what we got. Because of the lack of political will and political capital, the most obvious, was it Occam's razor? The most obvious solution is a collapse at some point. And because we understand and know the short side of the market, we can prosper if and when that happens. So, big focus today is the announcement out of the EU. We'll get a reaction off the durable orders. If the E-mini trades higher, and we have a clue that it might because yesterday's lows held in the overnight session, that should take us lower and either get us into this zone or that zone. But I can't see the market breaking until, or really rallying until we have this information right here. So on the assumption that the E-mini can rally a little bit more, start out with our first buy, trying to catch a little bit of this. We have a 21 to 25, and we've got news to get through. And if the news durable orders comes in minus 2% and next transportation with a negative number, we will have missed it, or 17 or better. And we'll see what happens. One reaction to the G20 stepping up to the plate is that Brazil refused to buy Italian paper. Brazil's happy to take money from others, but it gets tough when you ask people to throw money into what might be an ever-deepening hole. Okay, just structurally, if John Popick were looking at this market, he's a seller at 01, and he's a buyer at 29. Why? Because the market is doing this. And that's what the market is giving you right now. No rocket surgeon magic in this. So, down to the 8 a.m. news. Second sell band. So we had a sell band, 01s to 05s, and then 7 or better. And because we're dealing a bit with a B in the overnight session and the latest round was selling, we thought that we might be able to buy it a little cheaper down here. So we're giving it a little room on the buy side. The thing that'll end up driving the market is the extent of this selling, taking prices down into the 5-year auction, or the intermediate term is SOP for the primary dealer network. So we have the 5-year auction that would tend to say prices are headed a little bit lower to move that paper this morning too. So we'll see if that actually happens. Any questions before we move on? Okay, based on what happened in the overnight session, if we didn't have monumental news coming out today from the EU, we'd be looking for a place to buy the E-mini based on what happened in the overnight session to test yesterday's high volume area in that 1235 area plus or minus. Yesterday we came in with wanting to be a buyer, but you can see the same pattern in the overnight session. We go a little higher than the preceding day. We bring in sellers. Got a B pattern. We were trying to buy it a little bit lower, but the buy side didn't work until we got below 30, which was well below our recommended buy zone. But fortunately, when the day session opened, we didn't really have a chance to buy it. It was straight down. Then the market kind of works itself back up to this 40, 41 area. We had guessed that early that the value was going to build in this 35 to 40 area. It came in at 37 and it drifted lower during the day. Now, if there's ever any doubt in your mind that volume attracts, market opens lower, gets pulled right back up to volume. They're like magnets. If the low volume area can't break, the market's got to go to value, and that's high volume by definition. So I know that may be hard to believe, but you just have to ask yourself, gee, if I can't take out support and resistance, where is this thing going to go back to? It's going to go back to where the most trading took place. It has to go there. Can't go any other place. Why? Markets. Basically, I mean, when you look at everything that's done out there, earning per share guesstimates, the rest of it, it's all done to ascertain what is value. If the earning per shares are this way, average earnings per share are this for the entire S&P 500 or for the Dow, this is where it should trade. Where should it trade? Value. So you got to really accept that fact. So what do we have right here? We got ourselves a P. We've got a higher low than yesterday's low, and that tells me that it probably can get stops above the overnight session's high. So the really aggressive sell based on a down market and durable orders number that's not friendly, not as forecast, is 34.50 to 36.50. And we'd rather engage the market in the 40 area for obvious reasons. We'd like to engage the market up in this area right up in here, leaning against the structural break. So we'll see if we can actually do that. So we have news at 8:30 Eastern time. Durable orders minus 1/10, 1 full percent. That's not friendly, especially given yesterday's consumer confidence number. Transportation plus 0.4. Transportation swings this number everywhere. They usually discount aircraft orders. Then we have new home sales, and it's been 285 to 300,000 for a long time. Don't think anybody's expecting any improvement there, but this number could come in higher than forecast due to seasonal, where they'll pour the foundation before the heavy hard frost set in the northern countries, and they can build the houses out over winter. So that one could actually come in a little bit higher. Then the EU, and we're in the EU's window starting at about 11 Eastern. If it's contentious and they're not going to get it done, we'll start to get a hint if it hasn't come out before 12 Eastern. And bureaucrats love to go to these big meetings and stuff for the cocktails and drinks that are served promptly at happy hour. So if they're not going to be able to make their happy hour gig, then it tells us as traders that they're having problems getting an agreement. I used to remember when my stint in government service was you didn't have to do anything for the 8 hours that you were supposed to be there with prescribed breaks, but you had to be there at the opening bell, and you couldn't leave until the final bell. Now, you could be reading novels inside as long as you put them inside of government manuals, you just were stuck. So they're really sticklers for the clock. But as far as meaningful work goes and you being productive, that's an afterthought. Okay, here's 35. Got a pretty clean break in this area, and you can see that the value area high is getting some activity. We're not quite making the green line. We do have outside in trade here that fits all the criteria. You would not have filled right here. You would have filled here, outside in trade. And then right here, this outside in trade didn't make it to the green line. We are getting higher lows. That says we should be able to challenge that area, go for stops above the overnight session high. But we've got news here and 10 minutes to get through before we'll know if we'll get it. I put an article into the room that short interest is back to where it was in August. And the short squeeze is probably over. So now we get back to fundamentals and what's going on, not just the dynamics of a short squeeze. And the EU looks a little high to me this morning. It's north of 139. So we'll see what happens. Any questions here before I book it? So we got, I mean, now today, because of what comes out of the EU, you cannot, especially when we get close to the 11 to 12 o'clock area on the Eastern time, you cannot trade without risk protection, and you're liable to get skidded. So it's just a fact of life. Liquidity will dry up as people await to see what they're going to say. So let's try to get our money made early. Our buy zone from last night was 29 to 129.01. Right now we have resistance starting at 29.02, and we have news on the half hour. So we'll be back after the news and reshuffle the deck and take it from there. Later.